Let's talk about what it takes for you to be able to create a transformational experience for your clients as an online coach, where you have you're constantly bringing in people into your program or your services or your process. You want to make sure that your clients are getting as much value as they possibly can from you. And, over the years, for me, this is something that has changed quite a bit because, to be very honest with you, for the very first few years of my business, my focus was completely on, like, how do I get more clients coming in? How do I bring in more people? What do I need to do to attract more people, to generate more sales? And how do I scale? And in the last 2 years, I would say that has completely shifted, where it's now focused on how do I get my clients more results? How do I get the people that are in my program to feel like this is the most amazing program that they have ever been through? How do I give them value and really allow them to feel like this is incredible and they don't ever want to leave me, essentially, right? And so that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. And I'm kind of going to do something pretty unique and different around this. And you'll hear what that is in just a second. But for me, I really pride myself in building a business that is focused on giving my clients as much high touch, high level support as I possibly can. And, I feel like this comes down to what you want in your business and what you're looking for. If you're somebody that is looking to generate like $1 million per month in your business, maybe this won't work for you as much, or maybe it can, as if you're looking to delegate and add a bigger team and bring in more people and all of that. But for me, I value being able to build success on my own terms. And what that means to me is I work from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. I say this all the time because it's true. Because I have 3 kids and I want to be present for them. And yes, I want to consistently be hitting 100K months in my business and making more, but none of that means that I'm going to sacrifice my personal life, or I'm going to sacrifice the level of service that I'm delivering for my clients. So for me, it's really important to make sure that I am building a process that feels very powerful. And before I get into some of the details around this, it's also important that you bring in the right people, right? When you're attracting the right type of audience into your program, they're going to respond to your attention in a much more powerful way, right? For me, that's what like the ready to invest client is about. It's not just about people that have the money. It's about these people that are premium people, that are really focused, that are resourceful, that are action takers, that are taking responsibility for their own success, that are self-led, that are not somebody that needs hand-holding from me every single moment, right? And so that is really important. That being said, there is a lot of support that I give in a really unique way, but bringing in the right people is fundamental for that. I have a training on how to attract the right people at readytoinvestclients.com. Make sure that if you haven't watched it, sign up for that. I also have a video on how to speak to buyers. You definitely want to listen to that as well. I'll make sure that I add it in the notes below. So that being said, when you have the right people come in, for me, my focus has been on like, okay, how do I make my group program feel almost like a one-on-one program at the same time? And, I do have a one-on-one option to work with me. And I have a lot of clients that come into that every month. But for me, I really like to focus a lot on thinking about how am I able to really support my people that are in the group program in the most powerful way without sacrificing my own time or sacrificing parts of myself? Because there's moments when I might not want to have a one-on-one client to work with. Like I might want to take a break from enrolling a one-on-one client, right? Or there are moments where I want to bring in more people, right? It depends, but how do I bring in more support for my clients? So for me, I feel like I have built a structure that is really unique and really different because it's a group program that feels like a one-on-one container. And a lot of that has to do with the amount of systems that I have in place on the background, like, with the platform that I use, the emails that go out, all of those details are really, really important to me. And so that is really important. But then on the other end, it's also important for me to be able to think about, okay, how do I give my clients support that in a way that feels easy for me? So there's a lot of things that I do about this, and I'm going to go into explaining what they are in just a second. But before I jump into that, I also want to say that a big part of the work that I do and becoming and creating a transformational experience for my clients is to really be the embodiment of what I teach. And I think that that is something that no program can ever give you, in the sense of like, it's not necessarily only in the materials that you're going to learn from a coach, but it's in how they act as a coach. Like, how do they coach clients? How do they show up to their clients? How do they show up to the Facebook group or the WhatsApp community? Or how do they respond to your emails? Or how on top of everything are you? And when you show up from that place of power and really respecting your clients, I think that it really makes a big difference in how your clients see you as well and how they experience the process. So that being said, what I wanted to do today is have one of my clients, Janeen Alley, come on and share what her experience in the program is like. She is somebody that is literally right now in the middle of the program. Like, she is in the program right now. She hasn't graduated or hasn't finished yet. She's in about like a month and a half in Breakthrough Brand, which is my group coaching program. So she still have time in the program and in the process, but I wanted to bring her on because I thought it would be so powerful to bring on somebody who is still in the middle of it so she can share her own experience. And I'm really excited for you to hear what she has to say. Tell us what you
Awesome.
do, a little bit about you, all the things.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you. And I am a life coach and I help visionaries and change makers to have more self-trust in what it is that they do and kind of have that energy of unwavering conviction to get their message across that I feel like is missing in a lot of things. So that is what I do as a coach, but I'm currently in Fabi's program and my message is unfolding as I go. So it's just been kind of a fun process for me
I
overall.
love it. Yeah, and I wanted to bring you on because you're in the middle of the program and you're like a month and a half in. So I feel like there's nobody better that could give kind of testament to the experience as somebody that is currently experiencing the process. But before we jump in and talk about that, I wanted to ask you a little bit about like what investing in your business has been like up until now. Have you invested in a lot of things? What have those experiences been like? I want to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I have always invested, and probably since 2016 I've always had a coach. I've always invested, probably similar to a lot of the things that people who are listening to your podcast have invested in. But
Yeah.
the thing that has been amazing about this experience is you do have a small group of people, and
Mhm.
I feel like the even though I'm in the group program, the one-on-one connection that I have with you is unparalleled in any other experience that I've been in, which has really made all the difference for me. It's one of the things that actually Eileen mentioned in the sales call. If you guys don't know who Eileen is, she does all the sales. You'll talk to her to get into the program,
Awesome.
but
Love
she one of the things that she said to me was get into the group. You're going to have so much support. If you need the one-on-one, then you can up level into that. Because I was concerned that I'd create the things and I wouldn't have the feedback on my stuff. And that, I mean, when it comes to messaging, that I think is so important. So it's been, like I said, just an awesome experience for me.
I love that. Yeah. And so, okay, so you had invested in different things. I'm also curious to hear about like if your focus has been mostly investing in marketing, and why did it feel to you like what you needed to do was figure out your messaging? I'm curious to hear that too.
Well, I actually had two of your 15-minute assessment calls when I had my first one probably a little bit less than a year ago, but I was in a different program. And so I'm like, okay, I know this is the next step for me. I'm going to circle back. But the things that I learned just in that 15-minute call, I like blew my mind more so than I expected. I mean, it was like, and so I went back and I like changed some things that I learned just from that 15-minute assessment. And it really up leveled my message. And I felt it made it more aligned with what I wanted to do. And so I just kept kind of, I don't want to say spying on you, but I kept circling around in your world for a little bit. And I did a second assessment with you, and that one was with you. And
Mhm.
again, I was like, okay, I wonder what she's going to say now because I really have up leveled my message. And you still came back with some really, really good things for me. So that was really helpful. And I feel like for myself, that was something that has been such a stretch for me. You talk about speaking to the poor, unfortunate soul and meeting people a little bit more in the middle of their journey. And
Mhm.
I was definitely speaking to people at the beginning of their journey, using a lot of that languaging, that poor, unfortunate soul. And so I was attracting people who are broke. And that is one of the indicators that you're not using an up-leveled or premium message or attracting premium clients, because you're getting people on calls with you who don't have the capability to invest in what you're doing right now. So a lot of it was just, what are the results I'm getting, but also just the things that the clarity that you have. I feel like you're kind of a messaging ninja, the things that you do, because I thought it was good. And then you came in and you didn't say it was bad, but
No,
you're
it
like,
was.
here's some things that you can do to make it even better. And I was like, wow, it just kind of blew my mind. So
I love that. Okay, so then the other thing that I wanted to ask as well is like, how is my approach? And we're not going to go into excessive details about this
yeah.
because we don't want to give it all away. But do you, or let me ask it like this: do you feel like my approach to messaging is different to others that you have heard and seen out there?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked this question, because you have this amazing blend of the tactical strategies of pulling that message out of your clients. Like when I'm going through it, I mean, it is deep, hard work. It is not something that is easy by
Yeah.
any means. In fact, I've even been like, wow, I'm just so tired, after a day of like working on the content and, working on the worksheets that you give us. And sometimes, sometimes coaches will create worksheets almost as busy work. Like they're not really putting a lot of thought into it. But I feel like the way that you take each of us through the process of creating, like how to connect to your person and how to speak to them so that you are speaking to somebody who's ready to invest, and what that person looks like, and all the things that we talk about, I feel like that has created even a bigger connection. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years and I've gone through all of the ICA worksheets
Yeah.
out there. And I feel like this one is like not even a step above. It's like 10 steps above, like anything else that I've ever created. And even to the point where, the ICA worksheets before, I'm like, yeah, ICA worksheets. But this one, I'm like, wow, this is really different. So there is like that tactical piece of it. But the other thing that I have never seen in any of the programs that I've been in is this piece where you've got to trust yourself. And just like I want to speak to unwavering conviction, I feel like you have that. I want to be able to not only talk like that and be like, no, this is the thing. Like, I am doing this, it's done, like the things that you say, but also encouraging my clients to do the same thing, because I feel like that is what attracts people to you when you have that belief in what it is that you're doing. So you have strategies that they're not necessarily like tactical or tangible things. They're more intangible things to help us to show up that way in our business. So I feel like it is kind of this beautiful blend between the strategies, the incredible strategies, and then also a little bit of that woo energy that
Yeah.
is missing. It is missing in so
Well,
many.
I love that you're saying that because for me, that embodiment piece is at the core of what I believe is needed to build success. Yes, the message, like the tactical, tangible, very specific strategies of like around your message and around understanding your audience and around your angle of mastery and all these different things is fundamental. But without like your conviction and without your own certainty and your own belief, none of those things, like it does nothing. And for me, I feel like a lot of what I focus on in the program, which I don't feel like talk about enough publicly, but I am going to start to, is around the importance of embodiment. And for me, I love how you said that because I am the embodiment of what embodiment looks like in the sense that I like to lead by example, and I like to show my clients this is how you're supposed to show up in the way in which you create content, in the way in which you show up for your clients. And when you're able to see that modeled, I feel like it changes you as well, because now you're like, oh wait, Bobby's doing it like this. Well, then that's how I need to. Does that make sense? What I'm
Yeah,
saying?
totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think it was one of the reasons why I kept circling back to you, you know, in between the time where I first was introduced to you and the time that I showed up for the program. It was probably, I don't know, 6-7 months or so before I jumped in. And that was one of the reasons why I kept coming back, is like, it is magnetic. And there is an energy there that attracts people. So
Well,
yeah.
and do you feel like I teach that in the program as well?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I've never had that. I mean, people are so, and this is one of the things that you say too, like if I'm saying something and it does not feel aligned with you, don't do it. I mean, you
Yeah,
say it that powerfully,
yeah,
and you say it a lot
I
with
do.
us. And I feel like that is something that has really helped me, because I think sometimes coaches are so stuck on their process. Like, you
Yeah.
got to do this way, and it has to be done this way in order for you to have success. And I honestly think, now that I'm in this space speaking about self-trust, this is the thing that got me stuck before,
Yeah.
is because it wasn't energetically aligned. And I feel like not only do you give us permission to do that, but you teach us how to do that.
Yeah.
And that is the powerful piece that I feel like is missing across the board.
Yeah. And so a big part of what I focus on that Janine is saying is really on helping people build trust around their own decisions and around what they're doing. So I will probably tell them every single week on the group calls, everything works and nothing works. Meaning you can do TikTok and become a millionaire, or you can do TikTok every day, posting 10 times a day and fail miserably, not go above like 10 views per video, right? And it really comes down to you and what feels aligned to you and you trusting those decisions. So every week and every on the calls and in through the content as well, I'm always teaching, well, what do you want to do? And what and like giving you permission to actually trust yourself, which is
Yeah.
a big part of that equation. Um,
Yeah.
I love that. That's so powerful. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you, because you touched upon audience, and actually let me add to that. For me, the way that I approach audience, I feel is very different because like you, I did the ICA exercises, like ideal client avatar, just in case somebody doesn't know what that means. When I started my business, I did a bunch of programs and I have an MBA and I have a specialization in branding, but I have to say that the world has shifted a lot since I did my MBA, and I feel like the way in which you approach messaging has also changed quite a bit. So I did a lot of programs and I did the ICA exercises and workbooks, and I remember thinking this is so absurd, like going so much into the demographics or going into like if your audience was a type of music, what type of music would they be? What are you talking about? Like, how does that help? So for me, I feel like I reformulated completely how to speak to buyers and how to really call those people in. So that is one big piece. The other big piece that I focus on a lot is the angle of mastery. And that is a whole process as well that I've created that is also really unique and different because it is my thing, right? It's become my thing. So can you speak a little bit about that process as well for you?
Yeah, I mean, you go into a lot of detail on not only what attracts premium buyers, but having like a premium process that you actually walk people through. And I think sometimes other programs kind of assume this of you, I think, as their students. And like I said, I have created multiple courses. I have been in business for a while, and I have never really understood this part of it, like really honing in on your angle of mastery, how to find this, how to find the words and how to speak about the thing that makes you unique and different. And then also creating a process that supports that.
Mm-hmm.
That is all strategy. Like I was mentioning before, that's not the woo piece of it. You actually help us to create that.
Yeah.
And it is a step-by-step process. I feel like sometimes I'm like reaching into the depths of my soul to like find out why I'm here and how I can help people. And that is, like I said, that's what makes the price point that I'm asking worth it.
Worth it.
Because
Exactly.
I have done the hard work on the back end to really think about, okay, how am I actually doing this? Or how am I actually going to help somebody do this and not have it be like a surface level experience?
Exactly. And also, it's about really figuring out like how do you bring your expertise to the table in a way that really is serving people in a different way. Because
Yes.
there's a million, I always say this to people when I'm on doing the 15-minute audits, there's a million versions of you out there. There's a million coaches selling exactly what you're selling. Why you? How do
Right.
you articulate why you? And that for me is like what that process is like. One question that I get asked often that I would love to hear your opinion, although you've kind of touched upon it already, is people feeling like, well, I don't know if I can get my message out of me. I don't know if it's possible for me to bring that forward. What, I mean, I know that you've already spoken to that, but do you feel like this process helps you really figure this out? Your message?
Yeah, well, couple things. I think another thing that sets this program apart from any other group that I've been in is, and this was one of the things that Eileen assured me of when I was on the call, because I am somebody who does like a lot of feedback from my coaches. But the thing that I feel like is different in this experience is on every single weekly call, I get my questions answered, and not just but questions. And if I, at the end of the call, you're like, does anything else come up for you guys? Anything else that you want support on? Instead of just listening and then hoping that I get picked in an hour's worth of time, you hang with us for the entire time until everybody's had an opportunity to talk to you. And then in between calls, you have an amazing WhatsApp group. And I've never been part of like these support groups on Facebook or whatever, because I feel like it's just like the students who are answering one another's questions, which may or may not be helpful. Usually it's not. And so I don't spend a lot of time hanging out in there, but if I have a specific question, you're on there answering it. And sometimes not just with text, but sometimes with a voice memo or something that is lengthy and super specific and really supportive. So that is part of it. However, I am putting in the work, and this is, I will do some of it and I'll think about it and then I'll step back and then I come back in and I do the work. I mean, it really does feel almost like a master's program a little bit, just because it is kind of intense. It is, I mean, I think that's how it's like how I'm able to access it and how I'm able to find the words. And then I'll run it by you and you'll give me some feedback and I'll go back and I'll tweak it some more. And it's kind of this back and forth, which is really nice. So I feel like, I mean, like I said, this isn't something to invest in or do if you're like, well, I don't know, like you've got to be in the right place. You have to have the time to invest and do it. And you're definitely going to get way more out of it than you expect. I know I have anyway. So.
I love that. Yeah. And so, okay, so let me speak a little bit about what coaching with me is like, since you brought that up. For me, I value giving people attention during the group calls. And so, I have a good mix between group coaching clients, people in Breakthrough Brand, and one-on-one clients. Typically, one-on-one clients don't necessarily come to the group calls, although they are invited each week, but because they work with me one-on-one, they don't necessarily come to it. And so my focus is on keeping the group calls not be massive, but even if they were really big, I will always make sure that everybody gets their question asked. And if that means that I will take 20 minutes answering one person's questions, I will take literally 20 minutes answering their question. And yet I will have everybody's questions be answered, even if it takes me 3 hours, which it usually doesn't. We usually go for about 2 hours. But for me, I value giving people like my absolute attention. And so then the WhatsApp group is actually something really new. It's something that I launched this year, just when Janeen joined. I figured that I wanted to create something where people could kind of have me in their pocket in a way, and ask me quick questions that could happen or that come up between the group calls. And so I could talk about, just answering your question. I usually like to respond with a voice note. For me, it's just easier and faster to respond through a voice note. But then on top of that, I have like a channel within the group where I'm talking about my thoughts, my processes. So for example, I will talk about how I wrote a post and I'll share, okay, this is what I wrote. Here's why I wrote it. Here's how it came through. Here's kind of my thought process, or here's how I face a challenge. So I'm giving you very much like a behind the scenes of what it's like to live in my world and how I approach a lot of things in my business and in my life. I'm also sharing like meditations or just a lot of different things that I feel are going to be useful without being like overly every 5 minutes sharing something, because my intention is not to add more to your plate, but it's about giving you value and really being able to be there, like as if you were my one-on-one client, giving you a response to your questions. So actually talk about like getting that insight of how I operate and how I do things, like behind the scenes. What's that been like? I'm actually curious to hear.
Yeah. Well, so I have to say, like, not only are you good at the marketing and the messaging, you're just like, I think somebody that I really admire, and I think that you're just brilliant. So, but the thing that has been super helpful for me is that you just didn't like come this way. Like, this is hard fought information and knowledge and experiences that you have gone through. And so for me to see a little bit behind the scenes and to see like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how like that has evolved over time, or just your process of doing something. I mean, you even share like in inside of the course, you talk about how you're like, I am not a meditator. Like, I can do breath work, but I cannot do meditation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I can relate to that, but I can also really appreciate your experience, because I also teach meditation. And when I first sat down to meditate, I mean, it was a 20-minute meditation, and 2.5 minutes into the meditation, I was about ready to like, I'm like, shoot me now. I hate this process, you know, but I love how you share how this has evolved for you over time, because I can see myself going along the same path, and it gives me hope, like, oh, okay, like I'm going to get where I want to go. You know, it's not like I have to be Fabi or I have to be special in some way. Like, this is just the journey that we all take. So that has been really helpful. And like you said, like just even sharing, you know, you coming out of the gym and be like, okay, I've got this really great idea for this, and I just wanted to record it really fast to give you guys some support today. You know, you have these kind of behind the scenes Fabi thoughts, like maybe once or twice a day. It's not over the top. It's just, I feel like what I need to stay connected and to also see the process of how it's done. So it's been super, super incredible.
I love that. I love that. So, and then the other thing that I do that is, I feel very different, and that for a long time, if I'm being honest with you, I felt self-conscious about, especially in the beginning, is that I like to respond a lot to the needs of my clients. So I know that you might think like, why is that a thing to be self-conscious about? Because I will create new lessons and new workbooks and new training videos or whatever in the program all the time. Not all the time, but from time to time. And in the beginning, actually, it's something that I would be like, is this too much? But what I started realizing is it's actually a really big asset, because I'm literally responding to the need. So for example, in the program right now, I have a form that my clients fill out every single week to kind of let me know where they are in the process, what's going on, what they need, all of these different things. And within that form, I ask them, what is something that you need? Like, what lesson do you need me to record for you? Or what is something that you feel is needed to help you understand these concepts better? So I will get constant feedback from people, and then I will turn that into, okay, I created this whole lesson for you on this topic. And therefore, for me, it's about responding to needs versus kind of coming back to what we were talking about, like just being very stuck on, this is my process and this is how it is. It's more about, yes, this is my process. There's a very clear system and process behind what I do, but there's always room for it to grow and to become even better and more robust. So I want to hear a little bit about what that experience has been like, because I'm guessing it's pretty unique having somebody just record content randomly.
Yeah. And also, I mean, one of the things that surprises me is how much content you create during, I mean, and for how many hours you work during the week, which has also gotten me into this headspace of how can I be more strategic in my time? And I come from like a productivity coaching background. So it's not like I wasn't thinking about how I was spending my time or anything, but I feel like you just kind of up-leveled that conversation in my own head and how to do that in my business. Through this experience, and like watching you do that and being like, oh, okay, yeah, I need to spend less time in my head, like worrying about if this is good enough, and just put it out there, because you're so in the mindset of like, this is what my people need, and I'm going to create it in order to support them, because that stuff is coming at you, I'm sure, all the time. And if you don't stay on top of that, you start to get buried in it after a while. And so that is another thing. It's given me permission to do the same thing with my clients, because I am somebody who who really likes that high touch experience, I want to give that to my clients as well. Kind of in a similar way that you do things. And then also just be generating lots and lots of support for them and giving myself permission to tweak that. But I love it when new stuff comes in, because it's just, I mean, it's just always so helpful, because it's usually a question I've asked, so it's nice.
Yeah, that's literally what I do. So if after a few weeks, I'm getting similar questions in the group calls or in the forums that are coming in, I will use that to my advantage. Well, I mean, it's naturally coming in calls. So I know that these are questions that need to be answered. So then I will go in and either do research or look at, okay, how do I explain this? Or it will just sometimes just come through of like how to go deeper into some of these concepts so that you guys get it right. So that's a little bit of how that works. Okay. So let's kind of sum it up. Let's talk about whether you think or not this program has been worth the investment, and you better say yes.
You're paying me
Or
to say
cut
yes.
that from the video. I'm just kidding. And yeah, like kind of what you recommend for other people that are thinking about enrolling or coming in or anything like that.
Yeah. So first of all, I feel like if you're and you are speaking to people who are in more of the middle of their journey as entrepreneurs. You're not speaking to people at the beginning. And I think people who are like me in that space, who, that kind of resonates with me, you've probably been around a lot where you've been burned by other coaches and other programs. And I was highly skeptical of Fabi when I first met her. I'm like, okay, how is she different? How is this going to be a different experience is this going to be a better experience? Better be a better experience, right? But the thing is, I mean, I would have paid 5-6 times the amount that I paid for the experience that I've had in the program. It has been so much worth my investment and my time. I have gotten so much out of it. I was talking to my husband. I'm like, I wish I could work with Fabi forever. She would be my forever coach. Just because it's been just exactly what I needed. I feel like I really connect with the way that you do things. And I feel like it's been such a good experience.
I love that. Well, thank you. I'm going to leave the clip then. I'm not going to cut that out.
Okay.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Janeen, for sharing what your experience has been like.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, I think that part of the reason why, and I said this in the beginning, why I wanted to have you here is that I wanted you to share your experience as somebody who is literally still not even done with the program yet. Like you're still in the middle of it, going through the process. And I feel like it's easy for me to go back and look for a client that did this program 6 months ago or a year ago and say, look at the great testimonial or whatever, or the result at the end of it. But I think that coming as like speaking to somebody that's right in the middle, there's value as like you're living it right now. So I love that you share that. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
No, thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
I love it. Well, thank you. All right, my friend, I will talk to you soon. All right, so I hope that you enjoyed that conversation. I did not pay her for that, but I thought it was really powerful for me to be able to bring her on and share what her experience has been like throughout this process and how uniquely we do things in here. So I'm really glad that she did. So next steps for you. Number one, make sure that you're following me on Facebook, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. I'm leaving the links below. I'm sharing a lot of really great stuff on my Facebook profile. In fact, I'm going to be doing something special there really, really soon. So make sure that you're following me on my Facebook profile. I'll make sure that I'll add the link below. The second thing is for you to book your 15-minute brand message assessment. As Janeen shared, this is a really high value call. This is a conversation where I'm giving you a lot of insight into things that you don't even realize that you're doing in your business right now. You may think that you have got the things figured out, but you may not. So this is, a way for me to have my eyes on your business and the things that you're doing in terms of marketing, in terms of messaging, how you're showing up, how you're creating content. So it is extremely valuable, extremely powerful, and something that is going to really open your eyes to how to communicate to buyers and how to make sure that you're bringing forward the things that you really, really need to be saying. Also, if you're interested in finding out more about Breakthrough Brand and joining the program, that first 15-minute call is the perfect place to do so. It is not a sales call. I want to clarify this. This isn't a call where I'm going to sell you into the program or anything like that. But if at the end of the call, you want to know more about Breakthrough Brand or about working with me one-on-one, we'll invite you to hop on a separate call for that. I'll give you information. I'll give you my price points. Like I will give you all of the details around that. So, there's zero pressure around this process. So make sure that you go to brandmessagesession.com or look for the link below this video or below this audio so that you can book that call for yourself. I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in another episode.